Jason Kenney is in town with a team of some of his cabinet ministers to ask for some fiscal stabilization to help with the province and what Alberta has been going through. $2.4 billion, Jamie Ellerton, is the amount. And of course, politically, it seems like it would be quite astute for the Trudeau government to say, you know what, we're open to discussing this as well. What's at stake, do you think?
So I think a few things are at stake. One, there is actually real issues of national unity in Western Canada as a result of the perceived indifference of the Trudeau government to the concerns of Western Canada. That's why they were shut out in Alberta and Saskatchewan in this past election. But I also think there's a real danger here for Andrew Scheer. If you look at the tone that Jason Kenney, Premier Kenney, has struck in dealing with Minister Freeland and Prime Minister Trudeau and the federal government at large, it has been very constructive. They've had very specific things they're asking for and a very concrete actions they're looking for from this government. So when you see Andrew Scheer kind of screaming from the rooftops, doom and gloom economy, all these things, and then you contrast that to what Premier Kenney's doing and actually leading and governing as kind of people expect to do, what Andrew Scheer on the one hand might think he's jazzing up his base, on the other hand, he's proving that he's just actually not a government in waiting and very much is kind of second fiddle to this conversation. So from Premier Kenney's standpoint today, I think this is really smart politics. The people of Alberta expect strong leadership from their government and from their premier and from their elected officials. They don't feel like they're being heard in Ottawa, and there's a ton of proof points that give reason and cause to that. And I think what Premier Kenney is doing with the team of Alberta ministers in today is not only good politics, but it's actually good policy, and it's helping tone down some of this national unity animosity we're seeing in the West and putting constructive solutions behind it.
Okay, lots of palace intrigue going on for the Conservatives, as we see. What do you make of Jason Kenney in Ottawa?
Well, I think Mr. Kenney is actually, to differentiate myself here from Jamie, I think he's a bit put himself in a box. 18,000 jobs lost last month is a serious problem for any part of this country. And that doesn't count in the approximately 6,000 public sector jobs that will be cut as a result of his budget, which again is being driven by very large tax cuts to the largest profitable corporations in Alberta. So now he's in this situation where he's got job loss that he's adding to, making it worse. He's got deficits that he's been making worse, and he's come to Ottawa looking for help. And the Stabilization Fund, which is a mechanism to help provinces when they are in legitimate financial difficulty. There's discussion now about tweaking the rules of engagement so that Alberta would qualify for this funding. So that's the discussion to be had, I guess. And as for how does this work out for Alberta, well, if $2 billion was to flow to Alberta to help offset its deficit, obviously that's going to that's going to decrease, hopefully. We would want it to decrease the number of job cuts happening to doctors, nurses, teachers, etc. All these people who play an important role in our society. But, I think there's a bit of a job for perhaps not Mr. Trudeau, but perhaps for Ms. Notley, the former premier and the leader of the NDP in Alberta, to make the case that if there's additional monies coming to Alberta, let's make sure that that is being well spent this time. Let's not give it away in another round of tax cuts, or let's not jeopardize more jobs, because Alberta is already suffering from low oil prices and these public sector cuts.
Jennifer, what do you think here? Because it seems to me that there is an opportunity for the Trudeau government to show a little bit of outreach, an olive branch of sorts, and they have indicated, from what I've read and looked at, that they are open to the idea of helping out Alberta, which would go a long way to sort of helping to improve the image of the Trudeau government in that part of the country?
Well, I think that Mr. Trudeau knows that he has some work to do in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and these meetings are an opportunity to say, okay, we're willing to help you out. But again, to Tom's point, we need to see some type of policy that will ensure that that money's protected, right? We, like, as a federal government, you're going to want to see investments in education, you're going to want to see investments in healthcare, and not tax cuts. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see behind closed doors how those conversations play out over the next couple of days. It's no surprise to me that Mr. Kenney's taking the first opportunity he can to get into Ottawa and to have those meetings. But, whether they actually bear fruit or not, we'll see tomorrow, I guess.
Wonderful to have all three of you with us today. Thanks for taking the time to get into studio. For two of you here with me, and Jason, of course, Jamie Ellerton, rather, down in Toronto. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks,
Son.